Notice a couple things in this poem. First off, notice that the speaker is outdoors. He's not indoors, and that's kind of important for the whole romantic element of poetry. Most all romantic poets suggested that being outdoors and lively and in nature was a far better thing than being in the crowded, cramped cities with their dark satanic mills and their industry and commerce. So in this poem, the poet is wandering out on the hillsides. He's wandering out in the countryside, lonely as a cloud, he says. Not sad necessarily, but untethered to the world, floating around over these hills. And he sees a crowd as he's floating over these hills. Well, immediately with a crowd, we think human beings. But in this case, it's not. It's a crowd, it's a host. Notice. The same word that's used for angels and angelic choirs. And what is he seeing? Golden daffodils. Well, how is a golden daffodil like an angel or like a human being? Here he's anthropomorphizing the flowers. He's making them human-like by saying that they're standing about, right? That they're beside the lake and beneath the trees and dancing in the breeze. And yet these flowers, color golden and on a green stalk, are dancing about and moving. It's quite a show. It's quite delightful. It's quite brilliant to see this out in the middle of nature. And notice that in the next stanza, he moves from looking at those flowers there beside the lake to comparing them to a celestial body, the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. Those stars, then, that stretch in never-ending line are like angelic bodies themselves, up there in the sky. But he's seeing that same star-like quality, angelic quality there with those daffodils. How are daffodils like stars? And how are they like suns? How are they like rays of sunshine, for instance? Is it color? Is it shape? What is the symbolic element of the natural symbolism of that daffodil flower? And why doesn't he choose to see, for instance, a host of red roses? Or why doesn't he see, for instance, a host of blue bonnets? It's golden daffodils that he sees. And those daffodils themselves, which he likens to stars and to angels and to humans dancing, a crowd of them, he says, twinkle and dance, and he sees them all at one glance. And even though the waves beside them are dancing, these things are even more lively and sprightly than the waves, sparkling the way that light sparkles off of a lake. But then notice also, he does something very interesting in this line. In the third stanza, he suggests that even though this is a beautiful sight, he doesn't think at the time what this beautiful sight does for him. He almost takes it for granted. In exactly the same way as we saw in the Lucy poems, the speaker took for granted the woman that he loved. Here, the daffodils are a parallel to the woman that he loved in the other poems. In the other poems, the speaker takes for granted the beauty that the woman has until she's dead. And here, the speaker takes for granted the beauty that those daffodils offer to him until later on. He does not think what wealth the show to him had brought. Even though he gazed at them and gazed at them, it didn't dawn on him. Only later does that emotion, recollected in tranquility, spring upon him in a sort of epiphany of thought. Oh, that's what that was all about. Again, that's a very romantic idea. Not that we apply reason to something or that reason dictates how we are to interpret things, but rather we have an emotional experience, some experience of great beauty and joy and happiness, or of sorrow. And only later do we reflect and think, oh, that's what that meant, I get it now. And consequently, our experience is tempered by our reason into something that's imaginative. And he, in the last stanza, notice, says that when he is on his couch in pensive mood, pensive means brooding or dark, vacant means empty, like I have nothing left in me, sorrowful. And notice here he's in his house, on his couch. So he's moved from outdoors, in the great outdoors, he's moved to an enclosed space, almost like a tomb. And it's at that time when he is enclosed and feeling claustrophobic and caged in by the world, pensive. Suddenly he remembers that brilliance of light, that flash of daffodils that he saw at one time, and it opens him up. His heart with pleasure fills. His solitude is suddenly illuminated. The flash of those flowers is like a lightning bolt or like a ray of sunlight that suddenly opens into his world of darkness that he feels in the cramped world of the city again. And he, at that moment then, it says, he dances with those flowers. His heart leaps up with those flowers. And again, that's a very romantic idea. That sometimes we see things that are beautiful and we don't register just how beautiful. And only later, when we're suffering terribly or we're empty or we're lost or we're dark or caged in, we remember that thing. And it brings to us tremendous joy, great joy and great delight, realizing the world is not an empty, dark place, but a place that's very filled with light and beauty.